Emotional intelligence is a turn on. That shit makes me want to fuck you so hard. Do you even understand? If you are able to have a serious, in-depth conversation, completely just being vulnerable with me, telling me what I did wrong, what you did wrong, and how we can move on from this in an argument, and how we said this, and how you didn't like this, and how we're going to change this, and this is the behavior that we're going to change, and this is how I feel, my pants are already down at my ankles. Hi, welcome back to Talking About the Taboo. You know who it's speaking. It's Natalie Malloy. This podcast is for listeners who have a curious mind, who want and like to know everything there is to know about sex and relationships. This podcast is meant to open the conversations around things that are considered taboo. Things that just aren't talked about enough, that aren't ingrained in our mind enough. And so that is why today's episode, we are talking about something that's often overlooked: emotional vulnerability in men and women. It's a really huge subject that is surprisingly connected, not so surprisingly connected to intimacy. That is sex in relationships 101, emotional vulnerability. Opening up to our most hurtful thoughts, opening up to what we know as weak. We don't want to look weak, do we? That's wrong, and we're going to dive into that idea. So in today's episode, we're exploring the groundbreaking book. I love this book. It is called Men, Woman, and Worthiness. It takes a deep dive into how vulnerability, being open, raw, and real, can be one of the biggest turn-ons in our relationships. It's a game changer when it comes to creating meaningful connections, both in and out of the bedroom. If you have a curious mind and you want to know about emotional honesty, how and that can fuel intimacy, how you can increase your attraction, and even transform your sex life, stay tuned. Put on your listening ears and get ready to Clit-municate. Get ready to dive deep into emotional intimacy and the things that go on in our head and around how our relationships are just taking a plummet. Why can't we open up our minds? Why can't we fully be there presently in our mind and body with our partners? Because we lack emotional vulnerability. Emotional vulnerability can be completely jaded by our environment growing up and our current environment as adults. And this directly impacts our intimacy with our partners. I do not mean sex. And also, I do not mean only partners. Partnership can be your boyfriend or girlfriend. Partnership can be your friend. Partnership can be your family. Emotional vulnerability goes down all avenues of our relationships in our lives. But today we are specifically going to dive into that intimacy topic and how it truly affects the relationship dynamic. In this book, this is kind of like the introductory of this book. Dr. Brown sets the stage for a book by discussing shame. Okay, so she's impacting shame on both men and women and how they are interacting differently. As we all know, that is the case. They always say that most men are emotionally immature, but really it's deeper than that. She argues that both experience and societal expectations, cultural gender norms are often led to different expressions of internalized shame. Her research uncovers that shame often tells us, I am not enough. You ever have those voices inside your head telling you that I'm not doing enough? I am not enough. I'm worth crap. She talks and dives deep into those topics. She also introduces something called wholehearted living. So, this is about embracing vulnerability, like I mentioned, practicing courage, and developing a sense of self worth. She argues that being authentic is essential to emotional well being. And that is what I'm telling you, emotional intelligence, emotional and well being go hand in hand. So, that book really opened my mind to ideas that I was kind of overlooking with in regards to my current partner and how he handles certain situations emotionally different than I do. And I would rat on him and rat on him and rat on him. And I'm like, can I actually truly be there for my partner? I don't know. Does his emotional vulnerability give me the ick? I think so. So I had to dive deep too for myself. So this is me completely. I wrote an entire paper and excerpt chapter by chapter with quotes for you to really give you she what Dr. Brown was really wanting me to and her readers to think deeper than just the surface level. So moving on into chapter 1, the I am not enough epidemic. Loved that title, caught me, I was locked in. So, the epidemic of not enough. Dr. Brown is discussing how deeply ingrained feelings of not enough in society. So, these are the thoughts that I was talking about. It has a sense of inadequacy, and we're feeling like we're watching advertising and social media, and we're like, oh my God, I'm not enough. For example, me. I've been posting every single day. I'm impatient, mind you, but I am putting myself out there every single day, making videos, editing videos every single day, only for it to flop. And I tell myself I am not enough because I see on the next video that I scroll down another girl or another podcaster that is viral from a Clip-its. I've bought apps, I've bought editing apps. I have done everything in my willpower and my budget to be enough, and society and the societal norms and social media completely erased any confident thoughts. And that directly impacts my relationship and my confidence in the bedroom and outside. But this affects both men and women, but it's in many different ways and relationship roles. So, men have to be that strong, stoic, financially successful person, and women have a pressure often tied to appearance and performance and relational roles. So there it talks about the gender norms in here, diving in to huh. So I'm not like that. Am I less than? No. You're fucking not. But society thinks makes us think that, especially if if we're sucked in like we are. She talks about something called the shame cycle, and I really, really loved this analogy. I work well with analogies, and I was able to understand and break down what she was trying to say about shame. So she highlights how the belief in not enough is cyclical. So, shame can be led to withdrawal, perfectionism, numbing behaviors like substance abuse or emotional detachment, which in turn reinforces the belief that one is unworthy. So, this may be a bunch of gab to you right now, but I want to talk about what shame is and what guilt is and really give you the differences here and then dive into some examples of this. So, shame, it's a sense that we are bad and unworthy. For example, I am bad. I am stupid. I am an idiot. That is shame. That is something that you feel. Then we move in to guilt, not focusing on who we are, but what we did. An example, I did something bad. I can't believe I did that. Those types of statements. So, shame is those I am bad, and guilt is I did something bad. Really pay attention to those when you're feeling them. So then you know, what am I feeling right now? When you are talking directly to your partner, am I feeling shame? Am I feeling guilt? Or am I feeling embarrassment? So the book also dives into how shame and embarrassment go hand in hand and directly impact our relationships. Shame will spread personally, and embarrassment is fleeting, but you aren't alone. So we have to be able to separate ourselves from our behaviors. So, embarrassment, everybody gets embarrassed. Everybody that does those stupid things, pee your pants as a kid or kind of stumble your words as an adult, things like that that kind of make you feel embarrassed. It's not a very lonely feeling, but it's a fleeting feeling like, get me out of here. Where shame is entrapment. Shame hurts to your so much into your inner core because you can't get rid of it and you feel like no one else feels this way. I just posted a video on TikTok the other day saying, I feel like I want to be so many things in this life that I'm going to be nothing. That is shame. That is shame. I am going to be nothing. I did not say that I wasn't doing anything. I did something bad. I'm just saying that I'm doing too much, honestly. So those are directly related to the topic of shame. But was I embarrassed? No. Actually, posting that, people commented saying, I thought I was the only one who felt this way. But shame makes you think you're alone until you reach out, until you read this book, until you understand your very own emotional intimacy and your emotional vulnerabilities in intimacy. That's where we can dive deeper into getting your relationship on the right track, all of them, not just your intimate partner. So, when I say we have to separate ourselves from our behaviors, so you have to say, I may be making a mess, but I'm not messy. I may be making mistakes, but I'm not this worthy. I may be hard on myself, but I can still do this. Separate the thoughts from the behaviors directly. A lot of people, though, and specifically a quote in this book says, I didn't know I had shame. I just thought I had rage issues. Behavior, emotions go hand in hand immediately. Immediately. I didn't know I had shame. I just thought I had rage issues. Shame directly inhibits our behavior unless we're able to separate them with emotional vulnerability. So you may have acted out on your partner and really that came from your own shame is that of your you're not doing enough in your job, and then that directly you go home and your partner rags on you for something that you did or didn't do, and then you're rage you're angry because you have so much shame built up inside of you and that your partner tells you that you did one thing wrong and you take it the wrong way and that heads south immediately. And this book really is able to help me see myself deeper, but also see others deeper. So, whether in the future, when I do work with couples and individuals, I can also read more into how they are interpreting the situation with themselves and their partners. So, I kind of want to relate this to a pretty taboo topic, and that is cheating, infidelity. This is a huge, huge, huge thing that produces shame and guilt, separating the I am bad from the I did something bad. Now, this may be a hot take here, but if you cheat, that doesn't make you a horrible person. It makes you a person that doesn't have emotional intelligence and does not know how to think challenges through. That is a challenge. Temptation is a challenge. If you cheat, can you make up for that mistake with the person you cheat? No, you cheated on? No, you can't. Unfortunately, you can't. You cannot take back the hurt that you have produced and put onto that person. Is that person innocent? Who knows? It's two sides to every story. But cheaters have to have a more open mind to why they did it. And they don't. Usually they don't. So guilt might lead someone, right, to feel remorseful and apologize and possibly seek like redemption through actions, like confessing that that the cheating happened and they really, really, really want to repair the relationships. That's the guilt. I'm so sorry. Like I couldn't believe I kissed her. I can't believe I had sex with her. I didn't even think about it or him. Like it wasn't. It's not what you think those guilt, fix, fix, fix. this can have someone evaluating what they did, okay? Guilt will have you evaluate it, but not enough. Guilt may and usually has them have them evaluate it up until how they could fix you and make you happy. This is where the person who was cheated on comes in with their emotional intelligence, knows their worth, and decides if it's worth fighting for. Can we fix this? Can we dive into this? And this is something couples will come to me for and talk to me about how my partner was he cheated on me or he had an affair, and I want to forgive him, but how do I do this? And that is directly working on the difference between shame and guilt, and separating our thoughts from our behaviors. That's where it starts. The long road ahead of that, though. So shame, though, on the other hand, might cause a person to hide or deny the action. So most people who cheat feel as if they are a horrible person. They don't deserve the good that they're feeling, so they're going to go self-sabotage their life. That's what they do. There's many other factors, but that is one of them. So they want to hide or deny their actions because no, there's no way. Like I didn't do that, because they feel so bad about themselves. It's like, it wasn't me. Saw me banging on the sofa. It wasn't me. Heard me singing in the shower. That's not the words, but you get the point. Wasn't me by Shaggy. Literally, that's exactly it. Shame. Deny, deny, deny. Denial is a river in Egypt. Hello. Anyways, squirrel. They might fear being judged, rejected, or viewed as unlovable or immoral. That's shame. That is guilt and shame working together. Guilt, I'm trying to fix it, and then shame, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? But we can fix this. So put those together. I'm so sorry that I'm really, really sorry. Like, I did not want you to feel that way. It's really not about that. That's really not what happened. That's gaslighting. That's really, really not what I did. That's no. So he actually fell into my lips. Yeah. Oh, and so we actually wrestled in the dark. We didn't have sex. But I want to fix this. I want to fix your emotions. That is shame and guilt going hand in hand. Trying to claim redemption, guilt, and shame, hiding it, making it sound better than what it was. Unfortunately, some people fall for that and fall for those gaslighting behaviors. And if you have adapted emotional intelligence, you're able to see through that and say, wait a minute, you have shame, don't you? Wait a minute, you're feeling guilty, don't you? And as much as that sounds pretty simple minded and you're like, duh, but you then can know that person more in depthly from what they're feeling and kind of see it for what it is and choose which path you want to go down. Do you want to move with them to help their shame and guilt and your own? Because you're going to have guilt too if you cheated, or if you're the one that's being cheated on. You have to work in depth with this. And if you're the cheater, you also have to choose, do you want to choose this hard to just continue to feel the guilt, or move on to the next person and learn from your mistake? That is what you have to do. So chapter 2 now, so we're moving on, is called Shame and the Gender Divide. This one dove into it. This one dove into something pretty interesting. And she starts with the gendered experience of shame. So she identifies specific ways that shame operates differently in men and women. So for women, there are societal expectations to be beautiful, nurturing, relational. We kind of talked about that before, like, oh, lolly dolly lolly, like upbeat, blah blah blah. And then when women don't live up to these ideals, they experience shame in a form of self-criticism, anxiety, emotional exhaustion. Yeah, we're always trying to look the part. That's what we're trying to do. Or we're also trying to pick apart other people, because we're like, oh, okay, so if I like, let me like make sure I live up to their standards. Oh, okay, this is how I'm supposed to sit. This is how I'm supposed to talk. And also self-criticism, imposter syndrome for whether you're male or female, very valid, very valid. Imposter syndrome is where you feel like you do not belong. You're doing something, you're very good at it, but you're like, I'm not good enough for this. The I am not good enough, the unworthy, that is the shame talking in your head. You didn't actually do anything wrong, but you think you're a bad person. You think you are unworthy. That is shame talking in your head that is directly related to how men and women experience these differently. So for men, shame is more tied to like power, having to be the achiever and that emotional stoicism, which we will get to a little bit later. So men, who fail to meet these expectations, though, often experience shame and a sense of powerlessness and weakness. Men can't look weak. I have to be the provider. I have to make the most money. I can't be emotional. I have to be logical. That is not true. That is what society's expectations place on us as human beings in this ever-changing world. And we experience it very, very differently in and out of the bedroom. I want to repeat that. So also it goes on to the role of societal expectations. So men are often conditioned to suppress their vulnerability and emotional expression. And I want to say right now from the get-go, emotional intelligence is a turn on. That shit makes me want to fuck you so hard. Do you even understand? If you are able to have a serious, in-depth conversation, completely just being vulnerable with me, telling me what I did wrong, what you did wrong, and how we can move on from this in an argument, and how we said this, and how you didn't like this, and how we're going to change this, and this is the behavior that we're going to change, and this is how I feel, that my pants are already down at my ankles by the time he's like, yeah, so I'm so sorry that I said that like that. What? Emotional intelligence is a turn on. So the emotional expression leads to challenges in creating like meaningful connections, right? Because we're with, if you are in a heterosexual relationship, it's really, really tough because you're having two different kind of contradicting mindsets on certain things sometimes. And one partner, presumably the male, is like, I am opening up, and the female says, no, you're not opening up enough. But this happens coming from somebody who has dated a woman. That's the same thing. That I also felt like this one particular woman wasn't opening up enough. So everybody interprets their own traumas and shame and guilt about things they have done in their life differently. And you have to have your own emotional intelligence to dive deeper into somebody else's and to be in a relationship with somebody who may not even be light years close to where you are. So in the book, she talks about how women are in webs and men are in boxes. I love how she does these visuals. It really, really helps me and will help me with clients in the future to be able to be like, okay, so women are in this and men are in this. Sometimes, though, the split between men and women is really, really strugglesome. And people are like, why do we have to split it in categories? Honestly, categories just make it a lot easier to break down the idea. So, woman in webs. So, ideals and expectations stand up, but don't disappoint. So, stand up for what you believe in, but don't make yourself look bad. Be open and have sex with whoever you want to have sex with, but don't let people find out how many bodies that you have. That is straight up exactly why women are in webs. We are trying to make this web and someone will come tear it down and we'll only have pieces left. While men are like mimes. They think that they're showing that emotion, but they aren't. They're not using their words. So they're in this shame box where it's like, open up, but don't be perceived as weak. So they only open up a little bit. And as we'll dive deeper into this idea about how they only open up just enough to not give you the ick. And that is a thing. Chapter 3 then moves on to the good girl and tough guy myths. Love that. Love breaking the myths. Let's break that myth. The good girl myth. Dr. Brown in Men, Woman, and Worthiness, she discusses the societal pressure for women to embody the good girl ideal. Don't sleep around. That's what she has talks about. This includes being kind, caring, self-sacrificial. These women are expected to be liked, not assertive, often compromising their needs to make others comfortable. So, oh, I'm so sorry that the word Clit-municate makes you uncomfortable. Let me back up. No, that's not me. I don't fit into that web of women. I don't like that. But do I feel a little bit of shame? Yeah, I do sometimes. I'm like, It's not for everybody." Like, am I doing this wrong? Am I choosing the wrong career path? No. My emotional intelligence steps right the fuck in, puts tape over shame's mouth, and says, "Fuck you." So, um, with these women being expected to be assertive, the pressure to meet the ideal really often leads to us suppressing our authentic selves. Someone who's just all natural and themselves. I am not that person. I want to be me, and I am so unapologetically me. And because I have worked and I'm still working in therapy on my own emotional vulnerabilities, I'm trying to be my biggest turn on. Then we dive into the tough guy myth. So, men, conversely, are taught to be tough guys and involved with no vulnerability, avoiding emotional expressions at all cost, and always being in control. So, Dr. Brown notes that these myths leave both men and women struggling to access their full emotional range. So, again, like I talked about earlier, they're not showing us their full emotional potential. And we see that and we're begging and begging, but their shame is saying, I can't. And their guilt is saying, I can't open up. I don't want to be weak. I am weak. Let me not do something that makes me seem weak. Guilt, shame, shame, guilt. So with the emotional range of being able to fully express and come out, this ultimately prevents men from cultivating genuine self-worth and vulnerability. They can't dive deeper because they don't want to be perceived as weak. And women are perceived usually as emotional, and men are perceived as emotionless. I want to change that epidemic because it is an epidemic. All of us feel emotions. All of us cry. All of us can be dramatic. It doesn't need to be both a man and a woman. And that's where the divide I don't like. I don't like it. So I wanted to talk about too is the bedroom complex. That is something that I want to come up with and directly with couples too. You can ride and still be a submissive. You can be on the bottom and still be a dominant. You can have more dominant traits in the bedroom and more submissive. You can also be a pillow princess and be a man. Yeah. Yep. You can also be a pillow princess and not feel shameful about it. You don't need to be the tough guy and the good girl in the bedroom unless you want him to be like, good girl. Good God, look at you. You're doing such a good job. Yeah, like, you wanna be good girl and your hair pulled. I like that, but you don't have to build up to that look. You don't have to build up to that societal standard. You can do and say and freely moan whatever way you want. And let me start off by saying too, men, you need to moan more. What the fuck happened to men moaning? I love that shit. I love me some ice cream and I love me some men moaning. Why aren't men moaning? Boom chakalaka motherfucker, huh? Moan more, daddy. Okay. I'm so sorry if my mom is listening to this. Oh my goodness. So the bedroom complex essentially is telling you just fucking be who you want to be. Don't sit in a pillow, if you're a pillow princess and be like, oh, that's only for girls. And if you're a pillow princess and you're a guy, be like, oh my God, I need to do more. Maybe you do need to do more, but that's something that you have to talk about with your partner. Don't let your shame tell you that you're not doing enough. Maybe your partner likes to be the dominant one primarily. Let yourself be submissive sometimes. Okay. And that goes for both females and males. So then we're going to dive into chapter 4, vulnerability as a pathway to courage. So one of the 8 C's in interfamily systems in therapy is courage. So I was like, wow, this is going directly into when I work with clients. So, vulnerability and courage. Dr. Brown presents vulnerability as a key component of building self worth. Duh, right? She explains that vulnerability is not a weakness, but the birthplace of creativity, connection, and change. Those are more C's. So now there's the C's of emotional vulnerability: creativity, connection, and change. While shame tells us to hide our true selves, vulnerability allows us to show up authentically, both male and female, showing up how we want to be, not emotionless, not too much emotion. You're just walking in as you, the glowing you. She also draws on research that has showed that embracing vulnerability builds courage, enhances self esteem, and fosters more meaningful relationships. Diving more deep into that book, you can look at the statistics and look at really what research she dives into. She also talks about the power of emotional exposure for both men and women. This is exposure therapy. So, the willingness to be vulnerable, whether it's sharing a fear, expressing love, or asking for help. Asking for help is so fucking hard. Your partner just offering the help and accepting the help, oh, that's a whole nother thing. Have to get my car fixed. He offers to pay half of it. What do you mean? He's like, well, because uh, I want your, I care about your financial situation. I want your savings account to be built. We're partners. And he talks to me, this is my partner, ever so nonchalantly. Like, oh, it's fine. I'm here to help you. What? To me, it's like, oh my God, here's my shame coming in. Oh my God, I I can't return that. I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this help. Accepting the help, exposure therapy, allowing yourself to ask for help. Huge. Expressing that, oh my God, I actually really love this girl and I need to tell her. I need her to feel the feelings that I feel and tell her in the most romantic way possible. You will not be seen as weak if you're cute and romantic, whether you're a female or male, I promise. I promise romantic gestures are amazing. So, it's a powerful tool though, right, for overcoming our that shame that really has a grip on us as just people in general and also individuals in domesticated relationships. The more that people practice vulnerability, though, the more they will experience the emotional resilience. You'll be able to bounce back. You have already exposed yourself. Oh, I've already said this conversation and had this fight before. How can I change my behavior from the past and focus on it in the present? Use your emotional vulnerability and your intelligence to help your relationships, to help yourself. How am I responding in this argument? Take a second away from the argument. Hmm, how can I fix this? Is this my shame? Is this embarrassment? Is this guilt? Really think into that. So, the book, like I had mentioned earlier, talks about the idea of emotional stoicism. So, I'm going to go into the top 5 kind of explanations of what emotional stoicism really is and that how we can feel that, because that is essentially what Dr. Brown dove into the book. So, Dr. Brown talked about emotional stoicism, one of which is accepting what you can't control. So, stoicism teaches that there are things in life that we can control, like our thoughts, our actions, our responses. So, when you're talking to your partner, how are you responding? And it also involves letting go of the attachment to things outside of your control, focusing on how you fully are present and how can I respond using my emotional intelligence. 2 is a mindfulness of emotions. So instead of suppressing the emotions, which unfortunately some men do, okay, emotional stoicism encourages acknowledgement for what the emotions really are as they arise. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse or feeling, but rather recognizing them without judgment, without having that shame step in, and allowing yourself to process them in a healthy way. So you are becoming so subconsciously emotionally intelligent that these emotions just flow off the tip of your tongue. You're a male and you just cry when you feel like crying. You don't think about that shame or the embarrassment or any of the guilt, you just cry and you don't think about it. And whoever you cry with, whether it be yourself or others, they won't judge you either because they know that and they have been there. The third is emotional regulation, which a lot of us can definitely work on, especially myself. So, Stoicism emphasizes the ability to choose how to respond to emotional triggers. Have you been in a situation in a relationship that reminded you of your past relationship and you responded very similarly? And you're like, oh my God, I picked up some of my toxic ex's ways of arguing. Or maybe you had a parent who had, narcissistic parent who you have picked up behaviors from and now in your relationship are acting them out. Those are emotional triggers. So, by practicing mindfulness, which is step 2, and reflection, you can respond to these emotions with clarity and calmness rather than reacting on impulse, which is something I'm really working on, trying not to just outburst at my, partner, and working on internal family systems and my inner parts of myself in therapy and making sure I understand all of my parts of self before I judge them. Step 4 is the virtue over emotional reactions. Kind of similar thing. So, Stoics believe in living virtuously, which includes maintaining calmness, wisdom, and self discipline. Okay. So, having self discipline is like, also, it is, I can't go get Starbucks today, but it's also like, oh, okay. I need to understand that there is consequences to my actions and my reactions. And I did say something horrible. And I, do have to live with that. And I can apologize and I can, we can move on from this argument with a sense of understanding and that won't happen again. If it does happen again, you have to have that conversation and kind of work out and choose your hard. Step 5 is the dichotomy of control. So recognizing that while you can't always control your emotions, you have the power to change your perception of them. Let me read that again. The dichotomy of control. Recognizing that while you can't always control your emotions, you have the power to change your perception of them by shifting your mindset. You can alter your response to emotional situations. So, that is directly, again, shame and guilt going hand in hand. Okay, so I did have that emotion and I said that. That does not make me a bad person. That is changing your perceptions because you easily can say me yelling at my partner makes me a horrible partner and I'm a horrible person. And that is shame and guilt literally holding hands. Detach the two, look at them in depth. Take off your own very own rose colored glasses because some of us have them for ourselves. Where we're like, it wasn't that bad. I didn't do that bad. No, you probably did, but your emotional intelligence is so shitty that you haven't even had the opportunity to have your own self-discipline and self-awareness, which a lot of us lack. Then we move on to chapter 5, where she talks about the power of being enough. Loved this. The concept of enoughness. So Dr. Brown argues that people often live with the false belief that they are not enough, whether in terms of their appearance, their success, or their worthiness as a partner, parents, or friends. I'm not enough. I didn't answer or open up enough to my partner when he asked me, what was wrong. I just said I'm fine. My friend was talking about, something really meaningful and I sneezed and I forgot what we were talking about and I'm a horrible person. Or if you're a parent and your kid got in trouble at school or they hurt themselves and you start to blame yourself, you just never feel like you're doing enough or enough. Your career, that's definitely something that I currently live with. I don't think I'm doing enough with this podcast. I don't think I'm worthy. I have to still currently every day dive deep and tell myself, sit down, you fucking got this, and stand up for what you believe in. Because sometimes I say sit down for myself because I'm running around, running amok, and I don't take a second to just say, Natalie, you're fucking awesome. You're doing fucking awesome. Stop being so hard on yourself. Do that. Tell yourself right now in your head while listening to this podcast, I am fucking enough. And I've had enough of my thoughts telling me that I'm not. I have the ability to react, and that is okay, but I also have the ability to change my perceptions of how situations end up. You are fucking enough. So she also looks at the research of self-worth. So she's drawing research. So Dr. Brown emphasizes that the importance of self-compassion and practicing and recognizing that imperfections are a part of being human. That's just, you make mistakes. If you did cheat on somebody, that is a mistake that you do have to live with. And you can decide to be hard on yourself about it, or you can decide to learn from it. And if you were the one cheated on, you also decide to learn from the feelings that you were feeling, and now you know what you don't want and what excuses that you're just not going to accept anymore. Have compassion for yourself in all a sense of your healing, whether you are you are hurting, or you were the hurter. Because in life, we are going to hurt ourselves and hurt others. And that's something that you have to live with, but like, have some self-compassion for yourself. And that is what Dr. Brown in this book is saying. So people who are able to embrace their inherent worthiness are less likely to engage in perfectionism and are more likely to experience genuine self-acceptance. So it's just looking at that you are worthy of success. And in retrospect, it'll just come. So chapter 6 looks at the rising strong relationships. So shame's impact on like relationships directly, which I've kind of been discussing with you as we've gone through these examples. So Dr. Brown explores how shame plays out in intimate relationships. Then shame can trigger defensive behaviors, emotional disconnection, and withdrawal, which makes it harder for individuals to form intimate connections. If we're withdrawing from our partner and we're not opening up, how can we form an intimate partnership? That doesn't just mean sex, but actually opening up and being vulnerable with each other and talking about the things that hurt us in our past and currently. And really, I mean, fully in depth, looking into ourselves so we can answer to other people's questions when they're like, I don't think you're being fully you, because others can see it. Others can see when you're hiding you. Also, what I mentioned earlier, she dives into the concept of building trust and connection. And she suggests that couples can build stronger relationships by learning how to express their vulnerabilities and create environments where both partners feel safe to be authentic. You ever gone on a date with somebody, okay, and you feel like you can't breathe? Like you're holding your breath. You can't like move your hair out of your face. You got to chew your food the right way. You don't want to stutter. You don't want to stare. Oh my God, you got some food on your face. You just got to like be a certain way. I hate that feeling. I hate those first date feelings. But if that feeling doesn't go away, like the second, third, a couple weeks later, and you're not able to be your authentic self and you have to like put on this persona for them, it's probably not the right fit, because they're not giving you that platform to be able to just be your authentic self. And I'm so grateful for my current partner that I can feel safe to just be my weird, quirky self, yap, yap, yap all day, whether it's about sex or something stupid. And he accepts it. And I accept his weirdness too, even though sometimes I'm like, bro, chill. But, anyways, having somebody that is able to fully, open up with me. And I mean, I'm still getting him to kind of fully get there, but he has made so much progress, and I have made so much progress just being with him. We are a partnership in so many ways, and that is definitely healing. We are healing as a partner, and I love it. I love it so much. And to get there with somebody does take time, but start right at the beginning. In chapter 7, building resilience to shame, so how like self-compassion we talked about. She talks about the strategies of discontinuation. So you're like, what is this, like psychology class? Yeah, pretty much. So discontinuing a habit or behavior. How could we discontinue acting out on your partner, discontinue these thoughts in our heads? So the first one is gradual reduction. So instead of abruptly stopping a habit, you can, reduce the frequency or intensity of the behavior. So, look at yourself, oh, okay, I didn't act out at this point. So, but I I did fix it at the next point. And I wasn't I was able to open up a little bit and tell her a little bit more about my childhood. So I feel like I am worthy because I am opening up little by little and I'm gradually doing it. You don't have to face plant into emotional vulnerability. Okay? It's like teasing. It's like, foreplay for emotional vulnerability. You will get there. You will climax. Replacement with a positive habit. So you can replace the unwanted behavior with a healthier and more productive one. So, for example, if you're trying to like quit smoking, replace it with a positive activity like chewing gum, exercising, or deep breathing. So sometimes when you are in an argument with your partner, at least for myself, I, sometimes have a, fidget toy in my hand and I have to, maneuver the fidget toy 10 times before I'm able to react to a comment. And I'm replacing it with a more positive thing. Then you have to really identify those emotional triggers, okay? So, in order to discontinue a emotional reaction, you do need to know what makes you react, right? So, pay attention to specific triggers, and then once you understand them, you can work at avoiding those triggers altogether or making a better adjustment to how you react to them. Also, taking accountability and supporting yourself. So, share your goal of discontinuation with a trusted friend. You're saying, like, hey, I'm trying not to vape anymore. If I say like, "Hey, let's go to the vape store," let's not. "Hey, I'm on a diet." You talk with your friend or your partner, and I really when you go grocery shopping, if you, like, don't buy ice cream sandwiches, instead just buy some, like, frozen yogurt, something nice, or just no desserts at all. So, like, out of sight, out of mind. I don't even wanna think about it. Okay, awesome. You're showing them that you are trying to change your behavior. "Hey, when we're arguing, when you bring up my mother, it just completely shifts my whole brain. It's an emotional trigger for me. Let's not do that. Let's kind of try to avoid that. I have the sense of reacting when you say that. Can we change how we do that?" And the other partner can say, "You know what? I can definitely try to do that. I'm sorry. I can understand how that makes you emotionally triggered. Is there any time we can dive deeper into that topic?" And then you can discuss it from there. Also, giving yourself a reward system. So, those small successes are really important. So, after you have a great argument, I say great argument because there is great arguments. Misunderstandings are one thing, but being able to learn from our mistakes and making the partnership better, friends, family, or your actual intimate partner, journal about it. Journal about how successful that argument was and how much of a amazing movement in emotional vulnerability that you've made for yourself and how your partner was showing more emotional vulnerability as well. Dr. Brown was like, the prefrontal cortex syndrome is offline in shame. Our brains quite literally just go away. Our decision, how the prefrontal cortex fully develops by the age of 25. It just turns off when we're having emotional triggers and we lack emotional development. We don't even it's so subconscious. We're just like we react, react, react. Turning on your prefrontal cortex, you're able to kind of have better decision making. So in chapter 8, she also talks about shame, men, and emotion. So, kind of putting those two to two together, and that the suppression can also lead to issues like depression and substance use and the end of relationships. So, the quotes from this book is from a men's point of view. And I read this and I was like, oh, so the quote is, "My wife says open up, and when I do, she looks disgusted." You ever see your man crying and get icked out at all? Does that make you a bad person? No, but should make you look into that a little bit deeper about your own biases towards, those gender roles. Can women tolerate men's vulnerability if it's not on their terms? I mean, truthfully, can they? Because in the book, Dr. Brown says that men pretend to be vulnerable to fixate on what is really important to their partner instead of to their full selves. So your partner's asking you to open up and talk more about your mother and your childhood dynamics, and they'll like give you like crumbs, and the woman will kind of, I'm doing a male female dynamic here, okay? 'Cause that's what I'm living with. The male will give you little bits and pieces of it and not fully bring you to the full circle of it, and he'll stay inside that shame box miming. He'll open up a little bit, say a couple words, give you some hints, and close back off and expect you to read the rest. And that's just not doable. But are we as women icked out by males' vulnerabilities? Something to really dive deep into, because that is something that maybe when he was opening up about something, did I think, oh, he needs to like chill out? Like, have I had those thoughts? Think deeper into how we're reacting to individuals working and healing themselves and playing outside of those norms. Dr. Brown was able to, in this book, really dive into shame, dive into guilt, dive into embarrassment. She was able to give us an insight on men that are in these mime boxes, women who are in webs, and also making us think more deeper into, does our partner's vulnerabilities ick us out? Are we diving deep enough into our own 3 C's of shame and guilt? Are we able to be with another partner who is emotionally intelligent if we are not intelligent ourselves? This book was a way for me, as someone who wants to educate and help individuals, but also someone who wants to do some internal work, is able to say, "Oh, I still got some work to do." And it gave me visual representations of the person that I want to be and the person that I used to be. Today's sex toy of the week is your mind. Dive into your mind, turn on your mind, and make your mind orgasm. That's it for today's episode. I appreciate you so much for coming on, talking about the taboo. This is, again, where curious minds run to, who are on a mission to know everything there is to know about sex and relationships. There's many other episodes that I have on this platform that go over topics about emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, and relationship dynamics. I don't always dive into the topic of sex, okay? I love you all. And remember, Clit-municate.